We are in bed with books. Thank you for joining us this week. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Bethany. If you'd like to find us outside of wherever you're listening from, then you can find us on our website, inbedwithbookspod.com, on Instagram at inbedwithbookspod, and find us on YouTube for video versions of the podcast and bonus episodes.
So let's jump right in.
I know. Okay. I'm like trembling.
Ew. Quivering.
You're like, ew. Quivering sounds better.
Yeah. I think quivering is like equally as bad. When I hear that or when I see that in like sex scenes, that or trembling, I have to be like, slide over it, or just gonna pass that right over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should I share the mug a little bit?
Yeah.
Just kind of talk about it. Real life stuff, you know?
This is real life stuff.
This is real life. Life has sex scenes. Life has merch.
Yes, I was like, where are you going with
Where are you going with that? Yeah, I ordered our first mug, In Bed with Books mug. And yours is coming as well.
Mine is on its way, yes.
Yes. And it has the lady on it. And it has In Bed with Books. And it's so cool. It makes me smile so much.
I eagerly await its arrival. And I hope you know I'm going to be so annoying with that mug.
Yeah.
That and the tote. The tote's coming as well.
The tote.
I'm going to be like, you know those reels of like stereotypical like tote bitches? I think I've sent you a couple before.
Oh yeah.
When they're like flashing their tote and they're like, oh, just let me grab my tote.
Yes.
My tote. Have you seen my tote bag? That's going to be me.
I am such a tote bitch. I turned into a tote bitch in London. So I grabbed totes from everywhere. Cause I was like, it seems like a very, it made a lot of sense. Like what am I trying to say? Like a functional way, collector item, like to
it
have,
also like a lot of places had them for honestly pretty cheap.
Yes.
I wish so like your little like hook right there with all of those totes behind you.
Yeah.
Taylin has one exactly like that. I've got a bag full of them because I store mine a little differently because you know how like when you go to the grocery store and you get the plastic bags, but you can't just throw them out. You're going to reuse them for something. So you put all the bags in another bag so you can use That's what I've done with my totes.
Yeah.
But it's the same premise. I've just stuck them on a door as well.
Yeah.
I agree though. I wasn't really a tote bitch until I went to London.
Well, and then it's very European as well.
Yeah.
Just to say nothing of academia. It is I remember going to Amsterdam and everyone had tote bags, everyone. And I was like, I really want that. But I was like, where do you get that? Because everyone had a different, really unique one that they just got from God knows where.
Well, also, okay. So when I think of totes, I also think of Ian. When I imagine him in my head, he always has a tote on him.
Yeah.
I think it's this very...
Yeah.
It's a personality trait, and not for Ian specifically, but just in general.
Yeah.
If you're a tote bitch, it's your personality, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And speaking as one, sorry. I guess I'll speak for all of us. Okay.
So first things first, really quick though, which is we are recording this a little late for you all. Because life happens. I got sick twice. I got sick 2 weeks ago and then I got better and then I got sick again. And it was a new thing.
Yeah. It was Milo.
Yeah. What is going on right now? It was so weird. And so I'm like taking a few days off of work because I'm like pretty sure it's stress related. So to kind of just like get my immune system back. And then, of course, Mother's Day, and I was out of town this weekend, and we just, I think you were really busy with work, and it just ended up being like because believe me, the book we're covering today, which we won't announce it yet. We're not there yet. We'll get
we're not there yet.
It is like an anticipated read, much anticipated
for all of
read.
us. For all of us,
we really wanted to read it, and so the fact.
Once I started, I couldn't stop. It was just like life got so in the way that I kept having to put it down, which was really frustrating as well. Yeah. So for clarification, it is currently 8:30 Sunday night, May 5th, and this episode is going out tomorrow. So this is probably the closest we've ever cut it to the finish line.
Closest.
Yeah. And I also finished the book an hour ago. If that puts anything into perspective about how crazy the last 2 weeks have been for the two of us. But I mean, I'm not even stressed. I'm just excited to talk about the book. But we're not going to talk about the book yet. We still have to catch up a little bit. It's even just been a little while since you and I have talked. So
yeah, that's
like
true.
In person.
That's
face
true.
to face.
Yes. I'm going to do a quick pause here and plug it into the mic because I can't hear myself.
Oh, okay.
And if I can't hear myself, I yell, and I don't.
No, that's fair.
You don't need that. Does it go?
So Taylin's mom is in town, right? And we watched Bridgerton yesterday, right? The episode I was telling you about.
Right.
And I don't think she was prepared to like watch those scenes with me and Taylin. Taylin hadn't watched the episode, but he like fell in and then he's climbing out and we both like started screaming a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Taylin was like, where the fuck is the remote? And she rewinded it. And then we watched it again. And then we paused it as he was like climbing out of the water because like you just get full.
Oh yeah. And I love that they're just like the girls are just like looking at him like.
She's like, it's indecent to stare.
Yeah. And then she like can't stare.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's like
so
when you're
good.
like, I need to reread that. You're like,
yeah.
You're like, let's revisit that.
Let's revisit that later.
I did have to reread a scene in this book.
Which one?
The reunion.
Yeah, that was like 4 scenes of reunion.
I read it at like 1 a.m. the other night because I had drank coffee way too late, and I was just awake, and I'm like, well, I gotta read, so I just read. And so I was like, it was late and I was like using my phone flashlight kind of thing. I was at my sister-in-law's.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I need to read that again. I need to make sure I got everything right in my head,
You want to memorize every single detail. Yes. God, I'm trying to think of like, if there's anything, I don't think there's anything really new with me.
Yeah.
I think, let's see here, with work's going well.
Good.
Yeah. It's picking up too, which is nice for my emotional and like financial stability.
Yeah.
I bought all too many books, which is a great statement following me talking about my need for financial stability.
Yeah.
It does not help financial or emotional stability.
Yeah.
In the long term. Short term, it does.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah. We're all addicts here.
Yes.
So the temperature out in Houston has just been atrocious. Were you even getting like humidity warnings too? Not like warnings, but like higher than usual humidity. And this past week, I know of at least one day, but I'm sure more than once, we actually beat previous like heat records for this time of year.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's going to get like that.
Yep. Global warming. Yay.
Yes.
Or climate change, since people don't like the term global warming. I don't know. It feels pretty fucking warm to me now.
It's pretty globally warm.
Yes. I mean, I was used to that in Phoenix because it's a desert.
Yeah.
And I think I must have just thought of it as like a desert thing. But after being here in like a literal swamp, I'm like, oh no, it's just an earth thing now. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been my week. A lot of like showering in the morning, having to take a horse bath in the afternoon because I'm already sweaty again. And I can already feel it.
Yeah.
It's the worst. Yeah. For those that don't know, a horse bath is when you just take a wet washcloth and you clean certain parts.
You clean all the necessaries.
Yeah. You clean. Yeah. Usually it's just my pits
and the other pits.
Yeah. The single pit.
The pit.
The pit.
Is that the new word? The new word we're coming up
I
for?
really hope not. Please, no one use that for your vagina.
Oh God. Oh God.
This is gonna be great. We're clearly just top of our game right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So what are we reading? What are we talking about today?
We are talking about The War of Two Queens.
Yes.
Your whole desk just moved.
I know. Oh, okay.
We've been waiting because where we left off was very frustrating last time for everyone.
Yes.
And this book is the fourth in the From Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And I think it's my favorite one.
Same.
It's my favorite one.
Same.
It's glorious.
There's butt stuff. What else did we need?
I know.
That's what we've been asking for.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't take many reading notes for this one because, again, I was trying to race the clock to get it done. But one of my bigger notes is just butt stuff. All caps.
Finally, the girls get some butt stuff.
Yes.
Like, we need it.
We do. Everyone
and there's
needs a
not
little butt
enough.
stuff.
There's not enough mainstream, I feel like, romance that does it, because they're like,
I think
even the dark shit that I read doesn't really have a lot of butt stuff.
It's still kind of taboo, you know?
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't.
Yeah. Let's talk about butts.
I can't wait for my family to listen to this one.
Okay.
Just kidding. I've definitely said this stuff to them before.
My family is blocked. So
that's fair. That's fair.
I have my brother, but I don't think he listens to it. So I don't care about my brother, but my parents, no one can know. No one. I grew
that
up
you like butt stuff.
Well, that I like sex. I don't know.
No, that's fair.
My family is just like very religious, and so they would just be mortified. So they will never know. We could be like super popular and like one of the top book podcasts, and they will never know. They can never know.
There's a freedom in that, though.
It's so nice. Like, I remember when I was like, oh, I just discovered you can block people. And you were like, yeah. And
I was like, I've been blocking people this whole time.
Cause like, I had so much anxiety that they would find it. Like, one of their friends on Instagram had followed us. And I remember like my heart stopped because I was like, oh shit, like he's going to get like suggested. And of course you can freaking block people. So now I feel, I can sleep at night.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I think the thing is like, even when we say these things and I'm like, oh, like my mom's going to hear this or my cousins are going to hear this or like potentially an aunt or an uncle, it still comes out of my mouth. So clearly it doesn't really mean that much to me.
Yeah.
I just need to accept it right before I say it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I love it. Really matches kind of like our culture, which is like embrace the cringe, because this has been such a cringy like space for me in my like life
in a good way.
And growing up. And so now I feel like this has been a really good place for me to like express myself with it,
And then like I've always had a problem being kind of too private sometimes. So I think it's a nice space. It's a nice space for me to open up a little bit and for you to explore things a little bit. It's been nice.
Yeah, it has been nice.
That sounds like a goodbye. We're not ending. We're just reflecting a little bit.
We are just beginning.
Yes. We're 3 seasons in now. Almost done with our 3rd season here. It feels nice to reflect a little bit on how far we've come.
Exactly. And this is the last book of the season.
Yes.
Such a good last book too. Oh my God. It had such a good ending. Okay. Where should we start?
Okay. Let's start with I have a couple of like characters that I know I want to talk about, but let's start with some of the bigger stuff.
What?
I think.
Oh.
Yeah, it's because of that new shit.
I forgot.
I think, considering what you just said, I firmly feel like we're headed in like a new direction with this. So this is the first book to come out also after A Shadow in the Ember came out.
Yeah.
And she did recently announce A Light in the Flame. So that'll be exciting. We will definitely be reading that on the podcast.
Yes.
There's kind of been this feeling throughout the 3 previous books, and we've definitely talked about this, especially with the way that Poppy just doesn't know things. And then we find out later that even the Atlanteans don't know a lot of things, that we don't truly know what's going on. And so then when we read A Shadow in the Ember, right? And we're like, okay, so this is this massive conflict. It's nice to get this kind of backstory. That's cute. That's fun. I'm enjoying this. But what actually is happening is that the stories are so intertwined. This, like, Poppy's purpose is so much bigger than we originally thought.
Like, she's not just like the queen of Atlantia anymore.
She's she's a fucking primal. She's the first official primal of life and death.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah.
Also, okay, for context as well, I just saw the new Doctor Strange, and I am an avid supporter of Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, our Lord and Savior. I will not spoil anything, but I literally saw that Friday night. After seeing that and letting that, absorbing that positive, like powerful queen energy, and then reading this, first of all, so many similarities because they're both like prophesied and then super powerful, more powerful than either of them ever anticipated. But there's something so gratifying about that, like, trope, that female magic wielder, powerful kind of being. Till the end of my days, I am going to enjoy that trope.
Yeah. Well, and that's what everyone wanted from, not to buzzkill right now, but like, that's kind of what we wanted from Daenerys Targaryen.
Yes.
And then they butchered that. And so this felt like redemption of that. Like, because she shows up with Draken, and then she is constantly, consciously trying not to kill innocent people.
Yes.
Like like that's her whole fucking thing.
I do think that's something that we should talk about, especially is the constant like fear that she has that her mother's right. And then they're actually so much alike.
Yeah.
I feel like we're jumping around a lot, but I don't really care at the moment.
Nope. It's fine.
It had very much like Harry Potter, Voldemort vibes. So do you remember in the second movie, I want to say it was the second, where the very, very end, Harry is like, what if I am like him? Because he can speak to snakes. Oh, I think it was the end of the fourth. I'm just getting too old now. I can't remember. But he's like, I can speak to snakes. The Sorting Hat wanted to put me in Slytherin. I have like these dark thoughts sometimes. And Dumbledore's point is like, yeah, there's plenty of similarities between you. But what matters is what makes you different. And that is, I would like, there was a few moments where I was like, we just need like to have Dumbledore come in here real quick. Yeah. And tell that to Poppy. Because all like Castile and Kieran were doing was just yelling about how like, no, she would never do that. But they weren't really like fighting the argument. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the huge difference was just that every time Poppy did something that like made her like her mom, made her like Isbeth, she was doing it out of like protection, out of love for the people that she cared about. But every time Isbeth did it, it was for vengeance. It was because she
it was done out evil. Of hurt. Yeah. It was
done she wanted to cause pain. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I feel like we've kind of had this conversation about before, kind of, but I think I might be gay for Poppy.
What's funny about that is that you said that you probably like Poppy.
I'm like her, or I like her.
That you're like her, like you are like her.
Yeah.
And so I kind of love that.
Yeah.
Look at you loving yourself.
Yeah. You were like, I'm pretty sure that's a, what did you call it?
It's a big character growth, something like that. But you're not a character growth person.
Personal growth thing. Yeah. You were like, not gonna lie. Yeah. I had some dreams. I told Mom, I was like, I think I might be bi. I'm like, she's just great. She's just great.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I have fallen all over in love with Castiel and all over in love with Kieran in this book. And then I'm like, let's just add Poppy to that like category, right?
Yes.
Of like, of like people I'm like, okay, like, so yeah, announcement. Poppy's converting me, or she's bringing me into the light.
Nice. I support that.
I her.
The joining scene. I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you. We don't need to get into that yet though.
No.
Let's see here. New loves that I've added are officially Reaver, obviously.
Yes.
Delano.
Yes.
And also Sage. I think I just loved her vibe.
Yeah.
Especially every time they mentioned her.
She was the one that was like
obnoxiously watched Reaver. Yes. I was like, I support that.
Yeah.
More people should be watching Reaver right now. He is completely naked.
Mm-hmm.
But also funny was the way that like we had Poppy come from her old life and then go to Atlantia. And she's like, wow, everyone's so comfortable being naked. I've never gotten so used to seeing so much skin. Mm-hmm. And then now suddenly the people from Atlantia are like scandalized by how naked Reaver constantly is. So imagine how naked he had to be all the time to make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is great. Reaver I liked because he wasn't just another Nectus.
Yeah.
Like Nectus was definitely like a different character. And I liked that they kind of made him like a more like snarky Kieran.
Yes.
I feel like, cause he's just kind of a support and like answers questions. Like
he also
but he's just a little bit more like snappy, which I like.
He doesn't give a fuck, which I love.
Yeah.
But then at the very end when Nectus is there and he's like, he like drops his childhood nickname to everybody. He's like, yeah, Reaver butt. And then he just kind of doesn't bat an eye and he just keeps talking. The mortification that is going to come next in the next book when he finds out what his dad did I'm very excited for that. But also, he mentioned that he was younger. Like he's still technically a youngling, which is crazy to think about because he's huge. And also he was already like several years old in A Shadow in the Ember, which means he's like centuries upon centuries old.
Yeah. I'm also happy that at the end they're like, no, Jadis is alive. Thank God.
I know. I was like, don't do this to us. I was like, we're supposed to fall in love with this child in this other series, and now she's dead.
Yeah.
I'm coming for you at Armentrout. Like that was my attitude.
Yeah. That was rough. So I'm glad that they cleared that up for us.
Yes.
Before the next book.
Yes. Kind of jumping back then as well to our very first point. Or I guess where we started this. The book ended much differently than the other books. Each of the other books definitely ended with this like massive cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And this one, it's I wouldn't call this one a cliffhanger, especially because we kind of had like the introduction of Collis and his
demise,
but also like his endeavors. Like we already know him as a villain. And so that's part of the reason that I think we're definitely shifting in terms of like the point.
Yeah, the whole premise
the point isn't entirely anymore like what is Poppy? Who is Poppy? What is her destiny? She's technically she's officially achieved her destiny.
Yeah.
And now it's like this much grander cause. And so you feel this kind of like, or at least I did, like this kind of contentedness at the very end, like this closure. You're like, wow, that book of her life is over now.
It reminded
now we
me,
have to,
sorry.
No, well, you're good. But like now we have to figure out what's next. And we haven't actually done that yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're just kind of like waiting.
It reminded me of like at the end of a show, a season of a show, and they don't know if they're going to get picked up again. And it's like, okay, it could wrap up here. That's how I felt. I was like, this could technically wrap up. You just get rid of that last paragraph. And
like, I don't think it will. I think she definitely has plans for at least 2 more books.
Yeah, I know.
But it felt good.
It felt like but it also introduced possibility of like, right. Like kind of, like, so when they're like wrapping up a season and you're like, oh, they could go either way at this point. But I definitely felt like it was definitely going to go somewhere. But yeah, it felt like the ending of like an era, and now it's going to kind of start on a new like foot. Yeah. But I still feel confident that Poppy has more to go.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think I'm really excited about that. Like, I'm really excited to see, like, I kind of like that they didn't like make her like perfect yet. And so then like the next series will, or the next, the next chapter, right, will like be very much like a continuation still in that way.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I mean by like, it's not all about Poppy now is that like, she was this kind of like main character, not just in the book itself, because like obviously she's the main character of the books, but also within Solace. Because she was the maiden, and then she was kidnapped, and suddenly she's married to the prince, and then suddenly she's the queen, and like she's becoming a god, and it's like, wow, she just main character energy. Yeah. But then the irony in all of that is when they find out about the prophecy, they're just convinced that she is the bringer of death and destruction. When in reality, she just kind of aids and abets it. And so I liked that kind of twist where it's like, okay, it wasn't actually all about you, Poppy. You were just like an accessory here.
Yeah.
But you all blew it out of proportion by thinking because the book is about her, or like because the story that they're all living in is about her, that obviously she's the bad person that this prophecy is speaking about, for better or worse, whether it's like Malik, who believed it and was going to kill her as a child, or it's like Kieran and Castile who were like, she'll never do that. But I kind of like that the whole point was like, actually, there's a much bigger problem going on here. And it's not just about whether or not Poppy is this harbinger that everyone's screaming about.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I like that it's kind of, we're just kind of reaching a new like level now. A new scope. Real quick, you mentioned Malik, but like that was a huge, like a huge reveal that he was the one that like was there. Yes. As she started having flashbacks during the book, I had an inkling that was him. And I think it made more sense once you thought about like, well, he's been a lot, I guess, healthier, you could say, physically than we all assumed. And then we're finding out that like he's actually pretty actively involved with the dissenters, and his voice seems oddly familiar to her. So the confirmation, though, yes, the confirmation was huge. And I do kind of like the way that it wasn't just impacting Poppy, but it impacted Castile as well, because he used this mythical figure that his brother had become previously to his advantage when he was going to take Poppy in book 1.
they assume it's the same person, but really it's these two brothers who are both just like, they have this penchant for doing illegal things.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but I definitely like Malik. And I love Millicent.
I like Malik.
Yeah.
I like that.
I want it to be angry. Yeah, exactly. And I like that we don't get them together at the very end. They both run off.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously a lot more healing that has to happen there. And it's not going to happen if they're kind of like imprisoned, like loose prisoners by Poppy and Castile. So
yeah. Yeah. My voice is really low because I've been sick.
You're like Phoebe when she gets sick and she's like, smelly cat.
She's like, sticky shoes. My sticky shoes.
And then she kisses, oh God, what's his name? The guy who owns the coffee shop.
Gunther,
yes. She kisses Gunther because he's sick and she has to get sick again. She has to get her star voice back.
Yeah. I really felt in this book too, there was much more of a succinct, established like group and community, like with the Wolven, because it was something Poppy really needed. Right?
Yeah.
Because Castile was out of the picture, which in a lot of books, when they do this, when they separate them, it's always really annoying. I was fine.
Yeah.
Everything was great because
I think that's why I fell in love with Delano too.
Yeah. Because we got Castile's point of view and Kieran got closer, which I've said this before, was like, they need Castile to kind of get out. Like, I feel like I said this in the last, in the Crown of Gilded Bones. I was like, it'll be interesting to see how Poppy and Kieran's relationship changes.
Yes.
Because having Castile out of the picture will make room for that. And I loved every minute of it. I underlined every time Kieran put his hand on her neck, back of her neck. Like that happens several times.
Yes.
So there's like all of these like really slight increases of intimacy, which is so nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wouldn't even say that like Castile's absence allowed for that, but rather that it like forced it.
Yeah.
Because when he returns, when he returns and all of the Wolven see, that's from his point of view. And he talks about how much of an honor it is to have all of them crowding him and nuzzling him and like tackling him and saying hello.
Yeah.
So you can see that all of the Wolven were feeling that. And they're like, if we feel this bad, how bad must Poppy feel?
Yeah.
And so we get like the little bits where Kieran is kind of like a mother hen to her when he's like, you need to eat more. You need to feed. You need to do this. You need to sleep. But you can't tell me that all of the Wolven were at some point or another like telling Kieran also, when's the last time she ate?
Yeah.
Does she need to feed?
Yeah, you know that it's all happening because it's all
Yep.
A chain of Wolven.
Yep.
That's something I just love. You know, I love that. Like, I love that. Like that. That's what I really liked about Nectus.
That like protectiveness.
Yeah. That like, the bodily like care and the bodily intimacy, both in touches and comfort and support, but also in like making sure making sure you're like fed, right? Like, do you need to feed? Yeah, I really enjoy that presence, which I find I was kind of thinking about it like in the general scope of like the magic system in this particular fantasy world, which is something I've just never seen before that I really like, which is you can be a god and still need to feed.
Yeah.
Like there's still like Castile gets to a point where he doesn't even recognize Poppy anymore. Even though he's like an Atlantean and very powerful and has all of these, like, he can use compulsion and all these things. Like, it's very interesting how much of it comes down to just bodily need.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone's trying to kind of keep themselves above ground. Like you have to feed periodically. And so there is kind of this, like, you're like subject to this. You have to prioritize like this, your body so much. Like you're kind of constantly needing to like monitor and like make sure you're like doing okay, especially for those who need to feed. Wolven don't need to feed, but yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, and I think this kind of goes back to like the way that Kieran has kind of turned his mother henning with Poppy into this like love language. It feels really, I guess, like it makes sense with this werewolf trope. Something about that. And I think part of it is because, so like in this one, they're more of like shapeshifters, I would say.
Yeah.
But when you kind of go back to the way that like the werewolf figure, even within like myth and folklore and everything, is portrayed, it's as this thing that is kind of against your will. And so I like that. That's not the case in this. I really enjoy when it's more of like a shapeshifter thing.
Yeah.
But there's this relationship to the body that comes with having two bodies, basically. That's much different. So you have the Wolven, which are her first experience with people just kind of like being naked.
Yeah.
And then Reaver, even, who, again, comfortable being naked, this like, this, I guess, like a consciousness of the body in a much different way than some of the others, especially when you look at the way that they talk about Atlanteans who won't feed if they have somebody that they love, except from the person that they love. Whereas the Wolven, especially Kieran, is like, it's fine. Like, you just need to feed. Why does it even matter?
Yeah.
And so I kind of like that. And then also going back to your stuff about like gods and primals also having these weaknesses they need to feed. I was also thinking about the fact that they've all got these temples, but what purpose do the temples actually serve? You know what I mean? Because it seems like the prayers don't really mean shit. It's not like they provide them power. They don't really get offerings, you know? And so, okay, for example, looking at A Shadow in the Ember, when we find out that he rejected her again, or I guess he rejected her the first time.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen in a lot of other stories about, or I guess like even modern or like real life religions with gods. Is like if you give an offering, they take the offering.
Yeah. They're greedy bitches.
Yeah. And like they derive power from that typically, and like in these belief systems. But Nick's just kind of like said no. And then all of these offerings that people that like Isbeth as Ileana has convinced people are abating the gods' wrath and helping keep them on their side and helping her with her royal blessings and everything, they're meaningless. Yeah, they don't actually serve any purpose other than like control.
Yeah, like
and I love that. Yeah.
It really reminds me of actual like Christianity, where it's like the priests collect, the collection plate, like tithes. In medieval times, like just to keep the church powerful. But like people buy, you have to like buy your salvation and all of these things.
What's the character in Robin Hood? You've got the friar who's actually good. And he's like all drunk and fun and stuff. But then you've got the priest who has sold his soul to the devil for money. I always think of the Kevin Costner one because that's the one that my mom loves. It's
Brendan. No, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. It's one of the times she fell in love with Alan Rickman, which Alan is Rickman. Fair. The way he unsheathes his sword in that scene.
Yeah, he was super creepy in that.
Yeah, he was. A lot of things were creepy in that. But I always think of the part when the friar kills that priest because he's like packing the money on and then he pushes him out of the window.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt kind of like that. Not exactly like that, obviously, but very much like manipulative. When these gods are like, they're kind of, these gods and these primers are like, no, we're literally asleep.
Yeah. You guys have gotten a little carried away.
Yeah.
You need to come back to Earth. I love it. It's like it's just so funny how like every kind of book you reach a new like set of information from someone. Like, and this one was like Reaver of just being like, no.
Yeah. And why do you
he's like, why would you not think that? Like, or,
like, you're all so dumb.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so good.
Yeah. And now we're going to hear all of that, like probably from a god next time. Like it's going to be all over again.
I'm really excited to see who joins the fray now, because that was one of the things at the very end when Nectus is like, well, everybody's waking up. If the primals are waking up, then you can guarantee the gods are waking up as well, which is going to be crazy because as we've already seen from, again, A Shadow in the Ember, not all gods are created equal or is equal, like good. Some of them are assholes.
Yeah.
But I do hope we get to see some of the crew from the other series, which I mean, I'm sure we will. Yeah. Some of them have even been mentioned. But again, we don't really know anything.
Yeah.
Because so much has been manipulated and changed over the few hundred years since the War of Two Kings.
Yeah. Yeah. Whew.
Whew. Okay. Hold on, making a couple notes.
When Kieran calls her cute.
During the joining, you mean?
No.
Oh.
When he's right before he feeds her.
Oh, yeah.
First time.
Yes.
It's so cute. You really want to go right to the joining. I do too, believe me.
Should we?
We got to build up to it, don't we?
No? Okay, no, that's fair. Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, once that happens, it's going to be too much at once for us. We got to get out some other stuff.
Yeah.
I actually want to talk about Tawny real quick.
Yes.
That's one of the open-ended questions that we're left with this season. This book.
Yeah. And season.
Yeah, basically. So first of all, we don't know what she is now. I've seen some theories online that say she might be a victor, which would almost make sense because if she was able to talk to Victor and she saw the array, then she obviously went to the same place. But also there's like small signs that life is returning to her. So like at the when they have their reunion, they're saying something, or I think they're about to separate or something. And I think it was like an innuendo was made, and Poppy made this comment about like, I saw some of the color return to her eyes. So I do think I don't know if she has a bigger purpose, but like obviously we have not seen everything from her yet.
Yeah.
And I also kind of like the like narrative purpose that it served to have her come back and like be alive again.
Yeah.
Because she was definitely this symbol of Poppy's old life. And one big part about this, especially having like Castile gone for about half the book, is the way that Poppy was able to really shock some of her old life a lot more. One, because she's ingratiating herself and getting more invited into like the Wolven, not as a primal and with the primal like Notum and everything, but just as Poppy. But then to have Tawny show up as a new person, basically, and to just completely accept Poppy as she is. There's never like a moment of fear. There's never any questioning. There's not any kind of like tweedling her thumbs and they're trying to figure out who they are with each other now. They just like, without the pressures of the church and Solus, they're just two good friends. And that is like exactly what Poppy needs.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love that she's like, I just smiled when I was like listening to it when she was like, I just want to hear all of the details, like,
yes,
like all of these like dirty details. And I'm just like I love Tawny.
We all love those, Tawny.
Yes.
But yeah, I feel like she needed to know that not everything in her old life was fake. And a lot of that, so like Victor, finding out that he was a Victor, which don't. Yes, I cried. Let me just say that because he is my original book dad.
Yes.
But finding out that he was a Victor and it wasn't just him being like subjected to their systems as well, but him protecting her out of like divine duty was really big for her, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As like a god.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see what Tawny ends up being. Something kind of I'm trying to remember like how exactly she went down. And Poppy brought her back to health a bit, right?
Yeah, I think she was stabbed with Shadowstone.
Okay.
In the big like Oak Ambler thing at the end of last season. Fuck, that's the last book.
Might as well be.
Yeah. And so the end of the last one was that she wasn't improving, but she wasn't getting worse. But then they all had to leave because they were like, fuck Isbeth, we're getting the king back.
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with her. I'm glad they kept her around. I was really excited.
Yeah, same.
Because I really liked her and I wanted her to like, come back. Like
we need a little bit of her energy in there.
Yeah, exactly. Like everyone's a little bit too serious right now.
Yeah.
All of the women are serious and she's like not. So it's kind of nice to have like because Castiel's like and Kieran are a bit like silly.
Yeah, she needs her best friend.
Yeah, she needs like a girl to like.
Yes.
Yeah, be silly.
To balance out the scales a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I like that they like wrapped up the like because she went in the first and second book when she like left. She did end up finding Ian, and we did end up like reuniting with like all of these Tawny and all of these people from her past life. So
yeah. Shoot, I had another point, but it's okay. What do you want to talk about?
Are we ready to talk about the sex scenes?
Yes.
Yes, please. Okay.
As Tawny would want.
Yes, as in the name of Tawny.
Yes.
And all that she stands for.
Yes.
So I really, not really a sex scene, but when Kieran feeds her, I really enjoyed that. Like it was just exactly what it needed to be. Like, cause I was like, I don't know, like I was like preparing like right before. Cause I was like, I don't know. Are they going to like do something? Is something going to happen? Are they going to like kissy kiss?
I thought something was going to happen.
I know.
The seeds throughout were a lot heavier this time, which it made it less, I guess, jarring when it happened,
Yeah. It was, and I felt it in the last book. There was definitely like a very slow, like crescendo of the intimacy growing there. And I liked, he calls her, he's like, you're being so, and then she cuts him off and says, ridiculous. I know. And he's like, I was going to say cute. And I was like, I was like, that's huge for him because he doesn't really speak up a lot.
Show feelings.
Yeah, show feelings. Yeah. And so I just, every time he made any kind of move, and I mean throughout the whole book, anytime he touched her or did anything, I was like, it just meant so much.
Yes.
Because yes. So I just love Kieran so much.
What I liked about that scene was that once he realizes that she's in his memories, he was like So remember that time you watched me get fucked on the beach? Well, fun fact, I was watching you get fucked on the beach.
Yeah.
It was nice because like obviously when we read that scene in book number 2, we didn't have any confirmation on that.
Yeah.
It was kind of implied.
Yeah.
We're like, well, it's out in the open. Somebody has to know. All of these people have like super smell and super sight. So obviously somebody has to know.
Yeah.
But the confirmation that basically all 3 of them at the very least were watching each other.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
No, yeah, that was really cute. So it was like nice that they got to share this kind of lusty intimacy rather than just like, because we all know how they kind of feel about each other in terms of like what they mean to each other as friends. Yeah. And then also as like what he means to Castile in terms of what that means to her. And so this was kind of confirmation that there's also a little bit more to that, you know? And I like that because there's a couple of times, right? And then and then later when Castile confirms it. Yeah. Like Kieran's lust. I really enjoyed that because we kind of needed that, but I also just love an open man, you know, like the not territorial guy that just like can't share. I mean, obviously I'm not saying like pass her around, but like, I just like that they have that kind of relationship. And he's
obviously jealous and he admits it a few times, but not of Kieran.
No. Yeah.
Because he trusts that Kieran doesn't have any kind of ill intent when it comes to Poppy.
Yeah.
The scene during the reunion, we don't have to jump ahead to this just yet, but because there's obviously something that we have to talk about before.
Okay.
But when he's coming to, finally, they're at the Claritza and Blaze's house.
Yeah.
And he's like, you should all get out of here right now. And Kieran is kind of nervous. And so he like gives Poppy a kiss on the head. And Cass is not jealous, even though he was just a moment ago like animalistically territorial when Reaver stepped over, even though Reaver was helping him.
Yeah.
There's like there's this whole different level of trust.
Yeah, she actually smells it. She smells like the warm.
Not to like also kill the sex vibes, but there was this fan art that I saw, I think it was even after book 1, that was just like toddler or baby Cass and Kieran in a crib together, because there's that line when they like talk about, I've known him my whole life, like we used to take naps together and everything. And it made me think a lot of that, especially the number of scenes where the 3 of them like sleep together, like literally sleep together and not have sex together.
Yeah.
And Poppy just wakes up and they're all cuddling really naturally.
Yeah.
It felt natural.
Yeah. So yeah, that one image, that one fan art where it's like it's like a little puppy.
It's like a puppy
and a little kid. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so cute.
I'm gonna have to find that. I'll share that again.
Yeah.
Because it's just the cutest.
Yeah.
Yes.
So good. Okay. So what's like the next moment?
The brain fuck. The soul walking.
No, yeah, that was the first. That was like before Kieran fed. Oh yes. That was very good.
That was, I even marked that because I was like, Bethany didn't make up a trope. She found one when we had our tropes episode.
Yes.
And it happens twice.
I didn't think about twice. That,
yeah. And it's not like, obviously it's not mind reading, but they have entered each other's mind spaces through the heartmate bond.
Yes. Oh, I loved that when he just picks her up and just puts her on him.
And we both know the reason that like Armentrout put it in the cave is because that was everyone's favorite scene.
Yes.
She's like, I'm going to give the audience what they fucking want.
That was such like good fan service. I was there for it. Yeah. I noticed that too. The cavern. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then it just had that terrible like, and then you feel them slipping away. That's what a sex dream feels like. You're like, no.
It is.
Don't go. I was like, I totally felt that. I felt it.
Yes. And then you try to like go to sleep and make it happen again, but of course it doesn't happen again. You just go into some weird random other dream. I'm not speaking from experience.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, I'm 100% speaking from experience. Yeah, those were good scenes.
Yes.
Especially, so again, to kind of hop off the sex train for just a moment, one thing that I really, really liked, because it's something that we've talked about before, is the way that she navigated the experience for Castillo.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the past, he hasn't really talked about it, which, again, to be fair, he doesn't talk about a lot of things. And we, until this book, did not have his point of view. And so this time we definitely get a deeper look at not the specifics of the previous abuse, but kind of closer inklings of what that most likely entailed.
Right.
And even though this time was not nearly as bad, because as like Castile says, in her own twisted way, Isbeth probably didn't because she loves Poppy and didn't want to hurt Poppy that way.
Yeah.
God forbid she not hurt her in this one way, but hurt her in another way.
Yeah.
But we still saw like the fallout of that in him. And he was honest about it too. He was like, I'm not okay now, but I will be.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't just like, well, it wasn't that bad this time, so I'm fine. It was, he had nightmares.
Yeah.
When they went into a dark space, he kind of like had flashbacks a little bit. It was a much more natural, like more believable portrayal of the way that might go about, which I appreciated.
And kind of in terms of like PTSD and stuff, like to go through that again you can very easily revert back to that, but you can definitely tell that Poppy then plays a really big role in like getting him back, Yeah.
And I hadn't really thought about it, but also I'm sure part of the reason that he kind of falls quickly is because of that PTSD. Which again, I think attests to the careful way and the very tender way that Armentrout navigated that plot line, that storyline for him, which I thought was really well done.
Side note though, there was a lot of backlash. Is that a good word for it? On this book? There was like hesitation about this book when people were reading it. And I was kind of waiting for something kind of crazy to happen. And I don't know what it was. What do you think?
So I've got a couple of theories and I'm happy to hear yours. And if anyone listens to this episode and you didn't like it and you've got a very specific reason, then like tell us, because obviously we're not seeing it. One of my theories is the increase in intimacy between her and Kieran. Because it went beyond just like a random threesome. It's definitely got like open relationship vibes.
Yeah.
Like polyamorous vibes. Yeah. Another one I thought maybe was just the lack of sex scenes in the beginning.
Right.
Because we have the kind of brain fuck situation. But then other than that, I really think she makes up for it. If we're going to say that like this was like a con of the book, I don't think it was, because we had, I like that it was
a problem with it. Yeah.
Same.
Like I felt very comfortable with how it still felt exciting. And the
really plot was still
it. And then
so nice.
Once Castiel's back, he's insatiable.
Yes.
Like like he can't. Yeah.
And she didn't just like hop around and go have sex somewhere else to like fill that kind of plot void, I guess you could say, because it's a smutty book. It's a smutty book. Yeah. So it was definitely a gamble, I would say, to have that so far into the book. But the fucking story is so good. I was like, oh God, I mean, so much story has happened. How far along are we in? Like when we finally got to Castile and rescuing him and everything. And I was like, oh shit, it's like halfway through the book before we even touch on that. So those are my kind of two big theories on why people had a problem with it.
Okay. I mean, I don't really have any theories because I'm like, I don't know. I guess the poly I guess if it's the poly thing, it's been clear that it would happen eventually. Yeah. So I don't know why that's a surprise. I thought maybe from what I snuck when I was reading stuff on like almost spoilers, it alluded to Castiel's treatment. So I thought maybe there was going to be like a rape scene or something.
Yeah, I was.
And there wasn't. And so maybe, but even then, like I've read some pretty, like Guild was more like
Guild
explicit.
Was pretty fucked up. Yeah.
Guild had some fucked up things in it. I'm just curious. I'm like willing to like look and read the spoilers because I didn't want anything to spoil me, but now I haven't done that yet because I finished the book today.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely have to go online and just kind of like read why people had such stark opinions. It might also be that it just wasn't what they wanted. They got their hopes up and it didn't play out exactly as they wanted. And a lot of people make themselves angry over that. And those people need to lower their standards.
They're loud.
Yes, they are loud. They are loud. Also, I want to put out another reminder to people generally that if you have bad things to say about a book, leave the author out of it.
Yeah.
Because they are real people. So 17th reminder for myself also is that I am in like the JLA Facebook group, one of her Facebook groups. And she spent about 2 weeks off, probably closer to a month, actually. I don't know. Off like the internet period after the book came out because so many people were either tagging her in like terrible shit. They were DMing her and saying shit to her. And like friendly reminder that people online are real people. So if you have those thoughts, like say it on the internet. No one gives a shit. Everyone can say whatever they want on the internet. But also don't tag the person who spent several months and like
years,
countless hours creating this story because it's a dick move.
Yeah.
So off my soapbox for this episode.
I second that.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
It takes a lot of like yourself to make a book. And so like, obviously people are going to have bad opinions about it, but it doesn't mean you have to
say it to their face.
Spew it at the person. Yes. Exactly. I think she handled it great. I guess my only other thing would be the kind of human rights violations that Isbeth committed. But again, that's not really anything new when it comes to high fantasy, period.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen Game of Thrones?
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I'm interested. To see what that was about.
Same.
So the next sex scene then would be the reunion,
which is really about, I'm going to estimate 42 sex scenes actually.
Yes. It covers a lot of bases.
Yeah.
I did a rereading of it because I read it really late. I was telling you, and I was like, I need to like make sure I have everything like down. And I'm confused about something, and I would like to do a close reading on it with you so that we can better understand the logistics of what's going on.
Yes. For research.
For research. Okay, let me find it. I can't believe. Oh wait, did I write down the number? Yes, 416. Castiel does something with a garment, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly it is. I've reread it several times, and I feel like you have a better imagination for these things than I do.
Real quick question, not book related. So apparently, some people, when they think, can see pictures, and some people cannot.
Yes.
Can you?
When we're talking about, if I'm like explaining to you what I did like yesterday, I'm reliving it in my brain movies.
So it's like a memory.
Yeah. That's kind of how I describe it the best. But for example, Milo doesn't. He hears himself say it.
Interesting.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
So apparently there is like a gradient. Can you imagine things? Like if I were to tell you right now to think of nothing but a black box, would you be able to?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
What about you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When there's those like tests online, like imagine this, imagine that. I'm usually at the very far end, like as far as you can go in terms of like visualizing things.
Okay. I'm kind of interested because generally I'm like, I'm imagining what's happening. And so if I can't if like for some reason I can't like glean what's happening, then it like disrupts that. And so then I'm like,
agreed.
And then I have to kind of go back and be like, I don't know what's, and we've talked about this before with like sex scenes. It's like, where are we? What's going on? And what position? Which leg? You know?
I wonder if that's because you and I are just really good at visualizing in our head. Like if we're good at that part.
Yeah.
Sometimes if there's like, and obviously I'm like, this isn't like a negative thing because everyone's a little bit different in terms of what they can imagine. So I'm sure for some people it's fine.
Yeah.
But then you and I, if like a certain specific detail isn't mentioned, I'm like, I've got to reset. I've got to like wipe the slate clean and then fill it back in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's fine. I enjoy that conversation. Yes. Okay. There are a few things I have to say about this scene, and I'm sure so do you.
Yes.
But we will start with a close rating. At this point, I think they're already fucking.
Yes.
He has her. Oh no, they're not fucking yet. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Just start reading it and we'll figure it out.
I should. Okay. I stretched my head up, catching that drop of blood and his lip between mine. He groaned, eyes closing briefly. When they reopened, they were twin fires of molten gold. Castile shifted onto his knees, lifting his body from mine. Before I could even guess what he was about, he gripped my hip once more. He flipped me onto my belly and then hauled me onto my knees.
Yes, they are not fucking yet.
Right. Mm-hmm. I need to feel your skin against my belly. Sorry.
What's up?
My battery is dying.
Do you want to plug in real quick?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. You're good.
With I need to feel your skin against mine.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is it not plugged in? I don't know how it got unplugged. Okay, we're good.
Okay, hold on. Sorry. I thought that was going to take longer and now I'm watching a funny video. I will send it to you. Okay. But I got to watch the rest of the video. Okay. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Go ahead. I'm ready now.
Now I'm voting on which cabin to go to for family vacation.
Oh, no, that's fair. That's fair.
They're all like, have to decide right now. Like, I'm recording. Well, I can't tell my mom that, so.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to feel your skin against me, he bit out in a voice that was barely recognizable. My loose braid fell forward as one hand went to the hem of my tunic, shoving the shirt up over my head. He tugged it down so it pooled at my wrists. The roughness in the way he tugged the gauzy cloth down where it caught between my breasts sent a wicked
that one again.
thrill. Yeah. The roughness in the way he tugged the gauzy cloth down where it caught between my breasts sent a wicked thrill through my blood. His hand, though, The gentleness in how he trailed his palm down the center of my back caused my heart to swell. So where is the garment? Because it's
I think she's wearing two garments.
Okay.
She's wearing two garments. So she's got the tunic, but you would always have an underlayer.
Yeah.
And I think earlier in the scene, possibly, I remember this at some point, it potentially was in this scene, or at least like leading up to this, maybe when she was getting dressed for this. She talks about the way that her like undershirt is just super thin.
Okay.
So she's got the tunic, and a tunic is typically just like a tube with like a head hole and armholes. That's just
right.
But then you would have something under it that would either have long sleeves or it would just like cover your nipples depending on the time of the season. Like if it was summer, fall, spring, winter, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
So the tunic was pulled, you know, when like guys pull their shirt off, but they pull it out by like they like pull the top of their shirt and they just pull it over their head because that apparently makes sense. That's basically what he did to her on the ground.
Okay.
And then
with the tunic,
undergarment,
the undershirt or undergarment thing that's really gauzy.
We just kind of pulled up, I think. That's the way I imagined it, at least.
But like how? Like in between her breasts, like she said. The roughness in the way he tugged the gauzy cloth down where it caught beneath my breasts.
Oh, that's probably just the tunic then. She's probably just saying the tunic itself is. Yeah. So if you're like on all fours, read it again. Is it beneath or between?
Beneath. Okay.
Yeah. Because I think I might have read between at that too. And I was like, oh, I guess if you're on all fours, it's technically between your breasts. Because it's just, you know, there.
So I'm trying to...
We know she's got big boobs. So.
Because I'm like, it's making her... It's sending a wicked thrill. And I need to know... I want to feel the wicked thrill as well.
You want to feel the wicked thrill, yes.
I'm trying
So basically, he undressed her in like one strip, basically. That would give me a wicked thrill. So the roughness in the way he tugged the gauzy cloth down, where it caught beneath my breasts. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then later in the scene, I distinctly remember this.
That's what so it like catches and it like ruffles her breasts.
So because her hands are on the floor too. And so it ruffles her body as it's coming off. And then it also like, they can't really get it any farther. So she's just sitting there like low key, not like trapped, but she's kind of stuck there because her, like, it's like when you're taking off your pants and they get stuck at your ankles and you're fiddling around and you fall over because they're not free, right?
Like this tunic is attached to her wrists. Her trousers are still like attached to her knees. And she's just kind of like, for the time being.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up because
I'm happy to help.
I actually had read it between.
I think I did
for some reason. And I was just like, well, how and where? And like, I get it. Like that is like wicked, but I was just trying to kind of figure out exactly how that panned out there.
That's fair. I would also like to say in the scene, she gets it from behind, which as we learned in A Shadow in the Ember, I'm a big fan of.
Does she really? She gets fucked from behind?
Well, he eats her out from behind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. 2 thumbs up for me. Yes. No, that was a really good scene. Well, not just that specific part, but I think if you were going to have this reunion and they only had one sex scene, I would have been kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
Because it would have felt like it didn't match up with the amount of
sex we've had in the past.
Yeah, sex we've had in the past, but also how much they miss each other. And think realistically is like, yeah, exactly.
That's how he expresses himself. Like,
especially when he just was like re-traumatized.
Yeah.
But the think about when you're in a relationship, which fun fact you are. I don't know if you know this, but like, and I guess I'm going to speak about something pretty easy for you to imagine. But remember when you got back from London and the way you and Milo reacquainted yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like one sex and you're like, wow, so glad we checked that box. That's done now. You fuck for a long time as you get back together. That's just the way it happens. And so
it's like trying everything new again.
Yes, because she's like getting past the fear that they wouldn't be able to do that again. And as well as him, and he admits that. He was like, I was so worried I was never going to be able to see you outside of my dreams again.
Yeah.
And then so that's also the first time when maybe not the first time, I can't remember now. I feel like it might have, I don't know if I'm confusing it with Sarah in Shadow and the Ember, but I feel like this is the first time that Poppy was eager to go down on him. And she does it multiple times, which was big for her.
Well, her first blowjob was in the last book.
I think it was the second to last book. It was in the second book because it was after the wedding. But I feel like that was the only other time that we had a blowjob.
That was in Gilded Bones. That's the third one.
The wedding scene?
Mm-hmm.
Not their wedding, like the beach wedding.
Yeah, that was the last book.
Oh, that was because that was in Atlantia. Yes.
It's fairly new. It's fairly new for her. Yes. So it is exciting that she's like.
Yes. And so like she's just doing it. Yes. That's not something that she has to be like, I've never done this before.
Yeah. 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 Cause that was what I really liked about the last book was she was very much like owning her sexuality in like the bedroom. And so this was kind of like everyone's come home literally. And like, she's able to like be a equal participant in that way.
And now that she's done those things, it's not a first time.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get more anal. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there. But
I had some hopes for the joining, but
same.
That's okay.
I think the way it happened was good though.
Yes.
And
same.
There's definitely implication that it'll happen again. Going back to the fact that this is 100% like, I would argue more polyamory than it is like open, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a 2-point.
Yeah.
Not a triangle. And like, this is cast. And she even admits that.
Yeah.
Because after the joining, when they're all sleeping in the tent on the way to the Bone Temple, she says that Castile's got this like gravitational pull that brings her and Kieran in closer.
Yeah.
And I do think that's another one of those, like, this is polyamory kind of things.
I also think it's starting to happen where Poppy is on the top as well. A little bit. It's just kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yes. So also that scene, there is a moment when they're on against the bed post or the bed, like edge.
The like headboard.
Yeah.
Kind of
the front headboard.
Yeah.
At the end of the bed. And, he's like railing her from the back. And then he's like got her chin up and biting her. And what does this remind us of? I was like, is she listening to the podcast? Is she
reading my diary?
What is the opposite of foreshadowing? Backshadowing, where you're
Go
like
back. TBT.
Yeah, like we're like, TBT. We're like, she is like Seraphina's granddaughter, you know?
Yes.
Oh, that was great. That was just great. I just loved that.
That was a nice little reminisce for us.
Yes.
I did feel, I was like, maybe I should just go back and read that scene too.
Yeah, that was such a good,
for research purposes.
Yeah. Compare.
Yes.
Oh yeah. That was great.
And then we also, real quick, in that scene, had the intimate, I'm going to dry you after the bath, just like they did in A Shadow in the Ember. Very detailed. It wasn't just like, and then he dried me off. It was, she took the towel and she went down my arms and then she went down my chest. And like, yes, obviously it was also leading to sex stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not just the touching. It's like the intimacy of that moment that leads to the sex stuff, which we needed in A Shadow in the Ember.
Yeah.
This brought us to completion.
Yes. This finished. This finished.
Yeah.
I here's the reason why I fell in love with Castile again.
Yes.
And I won't say, okay, because I was going to say, oh, I really fell in love with Castile, but I don't want to say that I didn't like him or that I didn't love him, but I'm starting to, the appreciation has
You've seen the light.
I have seen the light.
Sorry.
And I think it's because Poppy is Poppy in book 4 now. I think that's why I really like him.
We actually feel the power balancing between them.
Yes.
In this one.
Yes. It felt very different. Yeah. I'm also just kind of like, I just kind of settled in to the fact that this is like what romance does, which is we get this flavor of a man that fulfills these great needs, which is that that insatiability that he has. Like, he's just like, and especially since he's been away from Poppy and then he's back
for 45 days.
All he can think about is like how great she is, how wonderful she is, how powerful she is, and how like sexy she is. And is constantly like, he's very vocal about it. And like to her, like in inopportune times, but it doesn't matter to him. Like, he just has like one eye, like only has eyes for her. Yeah. Yeah. So I really responded to that.
Yes. Well, and I think that's really important too, because books like this obviously get a lot of flack for being like feminine porn, because we read the porn where it's like men watch it. This like kind of unnecessary sexualizing of these, but I guess like gender segregating of these things, sexualizing their smut. They're going to be sexualized. But it's not just the sex scenes. It's all of these very intimate, sweet, vulnerable moments that we also need to really round that out. Think about like the two really, really big ones on the internet. One of them, I would argue, is Castile. And then the other one is Reese. Yeah. And they are two very similar characters, which obviously is going to happen because they kind of fit the bill for what people want in these stories.
Yeah.
But the one big, yes, exactly. The one big thing that they have in common is the way that they are just absolute simps for their wives.
Yeah.
That is what women like.
And they anticipate what they need.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And like it's also like the intimacy, I feel like, is a big part of it. Like,
yeah.
Like, they're not finished when they're finished.
Yes.
There's that kind of like the aftercare. Yes.
Like you were saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So I really like Castile, of course. Now I have come into the light on so many characters in this book. I mean, because you know me, I've always been a big fan of Kieran.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's gotten his just desserts.
Yes.
Now he's just like,
he got quite a taste.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, did you have any more to say about that sex scene or?
Oh no, that's sex scene.
Go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, so when I guess the next thing that we move into is kind of the joining, because I would argue a lot of the sex scenes that follow that, or at least between that and the joining, are still fall under that reunion sex.
Can I mention one little one though?
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved when he just wanted her to touch herself.
Yes.
And he was like, shit.
Yeah. That was on the river, right? When they were on their way back after escaping.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
No, that's fair. I think it was.
I think they're in a bed.
Are they?
Yeah. There was one where he takes her to the Wisteria.
Yeah, that's what is that.
And that's like on the road. They were like,
yeah. That's the one that I'm thinking of. Is that the one where they do that?
He fingers her.
Yeah.
And then she goes down on him. Then there's I'm pretty sure they're in a bed. I'm not exactly sure if it's Pizonia or where. And I think it's when he has a bad dream. Maybe not. I can't. No. It's too fresh.
It's funny because at the very beginning we were like, we knew specifically, but now they've had so much sex that I'm like, exactly. It's all kind of a blur.
Yeah, it's all kind of one reunion, right? Yeah. But there's just that part where he's like, I want you to touch yourself or whatever, and then he just like watches her, and it was just really sweet. And
but I remember she's on top of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's why
it's his perspective too. Which,
yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Like a lot of those this time, which was fun.
Yeah. So no, honorable mention.
Yes, definitely. So we've got the joining, but before we talk about that, when they were leading up to that, when her and actually in the Wisteria scene, when he's like, well, I also wanted to talk to you about the potential of the joining.
Yes.
And she was thinking about it, and she's like, well, one of them says, eventually you might have to do it again if Kieran meets somebody and he wants to afford her the same protection.
Yeah.
Tawny. I fucking hope it's Tawny.
I called that too.
Yes, I fucking hope it's Tawny.
Remember Berries?
Yeah.
I was like,
yes.
I was like, Tawny, like the Kieran.
Now that we've seen her outside.
Right. Like Kieran sat by her side at the bed, but I remember like there was a moment when like Kieran saw her and I was like, ee! Like I got really excited that it might happen.
Yes.
So
and that's another reason we need to figure out what she is, because they need to kind of like quell his, I wouldn't say fears, but hesitance around her, because all of the Wolven just kind of feel that something's off.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fair. It seems kind of like she's just sitting between life and death.
Yeah.
You know, it would probably bring some life back to her. 4-way sex.
Yeah.
With Kieran, Castile, and Poppy. Yeah.
She would love that. And,
And
that's also why I think it might be her, because she's so open about hearing it. That it won't like she, you know, all of the steps that Poppy goes into, like, not like being okay with not feeling shame, or like going through that process of being like, is this natural? Like, and stuff. Yeah. Like, I feel like Tawny is probably just naturally like, let's go. Like, you know? And so I'm kind of like,
I think she's probably still a virgin.
Yeah.
But what I would also say is that because all of this is obviously told from like Poppy and Castile's point of view, we as readers trust them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it would be easy to bring Tawny into that, because Tawny trusts Poppy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she would know that if Poppy's saying, we'll take care of you, we will not do anything you don't want to do. The same kind of like stuff that Castile told her at the beginning of the joining, that Poppy will trust that. Or sorry, Tawny will trust that.
Yeah. She'll be in good hands.
Yes. I also kind of hope that somehow or another we get to see a sex scene between Sage and Reaver. Because I think Sage fucking deserves it.
Yeah. Sage does.
I assume she was also revived at the end of the book, even though they didn't specify it.
Yeah.
So,
everyone was. Yeah, I think everyone was.
Even if the guards were, if Sage wasn't, I will be writing a strongly worded letter.
I think they mentioned her at the end.
Do they?
So. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, the joining. Chapter 44.
The joining.
Chapter 44. Okay.
First of all,
where to begin?
Okay. As we mentioned, a little disappointed that we didn't get anal, but I also understand. Yeah, or DP. I understand why she didn't.
Yeah, same.
Like she's like it's definitely like playing on dangerous territory. I love that she's doing it, and I hope that she actually does it.
Yeah, she's getting us ready. She's so good at like putting those like dropping those hints. So I definitely think
she's like, we need to make sure that the audience is actually comfortable with this even happening.
Yeah. Well, and we need somewhere to go too.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't do it all.
She wanted it.
Yeah.
Poppy fucking wanted it.
She's fucking yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Grinding up on that dick.
Yes. This okay. I'll say this. This scene was almost, and for me it was like almost too much. I was like,
I agree. I would firmly agree. I had to stop. I had to pause multiple times and just like,
yeah. It was like, I was just like, like blinking and like, I had to like remember that I'm like a human and
yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pulling yourself out of the images for a moment. Yeah.
And I will say this is a fantasy I have had. Okay. Like firmly. And so reading it was so like fun. And I'm just like, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you.
It's one of those things where you're like, I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also too, for these bigger romance fantasy series, you know, obviously if you read Kindle Unlimited, you can get anything you want. But like from these, it's like, this is like, okay, it's comforting that it's becoming more accepted and like more.
This was like published by a big publisher.
Yes. This is like a bookstagram like series. This is huge. So
it's like you can actually find this on the shelf at Barnes and Noble. This isn't just like, I shouldn't say just. I actually shouldn't say that. I'll take that back. But like self-publishing, you have a lot more freedoms in terms of the content you put out.
Yes.
She's taking the kind of content you find in self-publishing and making it mainstream publishing. Mm-hmm. So
it's
thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. There was something I was going to say. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, it's just so exciting to feel. I can't remember what I was going to say, but we can cut that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I think I catch the vibe of what you mean, and I agree. Yeah. Okay. I don't even know what to say about it.
I don't know what to say either. I'm just like,
okay, what was your favorite part of it? Like,
okay, my favorite part, no hesitation.
Yes.
They,
your voice quivered so hard.
They made her pray. Well, she was saying gods, and then they were like,
tell us what you want.
Said, what are you praying for?
Yeah.
And then Cassie
that was my
like
favorite part.
Egging it on. And they both were going back and forth, making her say it. And then they were like, what, Poppy? What? And
what do you want?
And then she was like, I want to come.
Yes.
And they were like, and then my favorite part was they were like,
switched.
Okay. And then she was just like, I just felt hands.
Yes. That was one that I had to read slow because if you're paying close attention, if you're like actively keeping tabs on body parts and as you're reading this, you could figure out who's doing what.
Yeah. So who did you think was doing what?
So I don't think Karen's dick got wet.
At all?
Well, it did when she was like grinding up a little bit, but I don't think he entered anything.
Oh, okay.
She gave him a hand job and like Castile was the one that fucked her.
Okay. It wasn't very clear and I hadn't figured that out. I just kind of assumed whatever happened. I'm wondering though whose hands were before that, because she's talked about how there was a hand at
like fingering her.
Yeah, fingering her. And then there was a hand on her breast and then there was a hand on her hip while like Cassio was like licking her.
Yes. So I think they each had a hand on her breasts.
Okay.
Because
do you think Castiel had his fingers?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I thought it was Kieran too.
So I think she leaves that like intentionally vague. Mm-hmm. One, because that kind of goes back to we're dipping our toes in this polyamory threesome action.
Yes.
And so I do think that's one of my things where it's like, I don't think Kieran put his dick in her. I firmly think it was Castile who did that.
Yeah.
And that it was only the one.
Well, and he came on her back.
Yes. Kieran did.
Yes.
With the hand job. Yeah. So when she mentions that Kieran has one of his hands on her boob, it's actually kind of after the fingering has already started. And so she only really places that one hand in terms of like places, like the context of everything happening. But we know where both of Castile's hands potentially are. So they've each got a hand on the boob. And Castile like always has his hand on her hip.
Yeah.
That is a recurring thing when they're standing next to each other, when they're talking, when they're riding the horse. And so when she said a hand on her hip, honestly, I just assumed it was Castile. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was intentional.
Yeah.
That we could like know who was. Yeah.
It was kind of a hint. Yeah.
Yeah. So like she's not going to clarify, but who's always got a hand on her hip? Castile. Mm-hmm. Also, they very openly kissed, her and Kieran.
Yes.
Which was
God.
Yes.
I was so ready for that.
I know you were.
I was like, please kiss. I also you know how sometimes you insert your own things into a scene because you're like, I need this. Yeah. I really wanted when she was feeding off Castile. Yes. And that's when she starts getting really intense, right? Because she's drinking blood.
Atlantean blood, yeah.
Yeah. And I really wanted her to just like throw her head back on Kieran's shoulder. So bad.
Yeah.
And she did in my version. I think
she kind of did too. But like it's not necessarily that she pulls away. Yeah.
It's just very, that's when she starts getting very intense. And so I wanted it to be kind of like at almost exasperation. Like, and then,
but that would have been so early too. If she was already exasperated.
I know.
What else was she wouldn't have survived.
She'd be,
I don't know that I would have survived. Honestly, that would have been my cause of death. And I wish I was being more dramatic or like more like hyperbolic. It's probably pretty literal.
Yeah. I was glad that they kissed.
Yes.
I was glad. I was also glad that there was banter. There was.
It brought a little bit of their outside relationship into this, which felt
it made sense. Relevant. Yeah. It made all of this. It reminded us of why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And also eased any kind of discomfort that Poppy might, or like, not, clearly she's not uncomfortable, but but I think like any kind of
the nerves,
the mind, like, and so she, kind of making her feel like, okay, everyone else feels comfortable. Like she even had to like, block off her senses to Kieran because he was feeling anxious at first, and so she's like, we can't bring that into this. And I was like,
and then she opens up her senses and is just almost overwhelmed.
Dies. She almost dies.
In like a hot way. I think so. Thinking back to their banter in this sexual situation, which one I'm a big fan of, but it's kind of my like exhibit C on why I think Tawny could complete their little group. Because Tawny will 100% be able to help Poppy keep up with them when it comes to their quips.
Yes.
She's already doing it. She's already like giving Castile shit. Yeah. And so it kind of feels like the way that the relationship is already established, that is kind of the natural progression that is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we all know that Tawny is attracted to Hawk.
Yeah.
And who isn't not attracted to Kieran? Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, it's only natural.
I think the only other truth that I imagine for Tawny is getting to fuck Reaver. And that's only because like Tawny feels like kind of just a little insert of like us as readers. Like we want to read this stuff. We want the details.
Yeah.
We want to be able to like banter with Castile. So that I want to be able to fuck Reaver. And so if Tawny does it, then I get to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was glorious. I was very happy I also like too that by the time they're like, they make her admit it and then they like go all in. I feel like there's always that build up, like they're in the scene. There's like that build up where you have to kind of be specific about what's going on, you know? And so then you're like, there's a hand here and there's a mouth here. And then there's fingers here and there. And so after the moment after they like, I can't
make her pray.
Yeah. Make her pray.
Yeah.
And, then they're just like, and then it's like all hands on deck.
It feels almost montagey. Like the way it's just, there's so much flow in it. It's just like going and going and you're seeing like another body part is moving and then something else is happening and then they're on the ground suddenly and
and so
somebody's over here and like
and so then it's not as important where's what, right? It's not very specific. But I would agree. I don't think Kieran entered her. Of course,
with his penis.
Her.
Yes, I think with his fingers.
I think, but it was clear that he like came on her back. She did a hand job and then, but her eyes were closed and then she was looking at Castile. So like I feel like too, it's very, that's kind of the established like positioning, which is Kieran's behind her.
Yes.
Castile's in front of her.
When they were fucking, it was the same way that they slept in the Skotos Mountains, the same way that they slept in the tent on their way to the temple.
Yeah. And it's the same way they like, she fed Castile for the first time.
Yes.
That first scene and, you know.
Like fed from him. Yeah. And so that's another instance of like, this kind of positioning has been established so much.
Yeah.
That some of it is just implied through the repetition of this. Yeah.
And it's out of comfort. Like, you know, there's the one time they flip her so that she can feed from Kieran.
Yeah.
And then they flip her right back. And then it pretty much stays that way. So then they're on the ground. And so it was a fantasy made real in a weird way.
It felt like Christmas and New Year's and your birthday all rolled into one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was a holiday.
It was. Oh, it was a good one.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say as final thoughts, what are your hopes for the next book?
My hopes for the next book is that we kind of get to go home and like plan and like I want a little bit of domestic bliss now that we kind of have like a unit. Like everyone's alive. They like came back to life. Tawny's there and kind of establishing these new relationships and figuring out, like, I'd like to hear more from Sage and Delano and Emil and, and even Netta, like, her role was really big in this one, actually, politically, which is really cool. And so it would
they even almost, they were like, if we die, you're queen, by the way.
Yeah. Like,
which was, okay.
Like, whoa. Yeah. So I'm kind of excited to like get everyone in the same house and we're like all figuring out where Malik and Millicent is. We got Reaver keeping us like informed.
Yes. And I do assume that Nectus is going to go back and Reaver is going to return.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because we also, I was just like, cause I remember like messaging you like that gif of like, just being like, I'm just waiting for the joining. And it happens literally in the last like 5% of the book, like the last 10% of the book. And so I want, like, everyone says that their relationship's going to completely Like it's going to be very different after that. So I'm excited to see what that looks like a little bit more.
I really don't think it is.
Well, we get like touches, we get like hints that like, well, I mean, they're just like sleeping together and it's not awkward. And I just want to see if maybe it like grows from that. Because we get a little bit of it, of just kind of like, you know, just like the last scene when Kieran just like, you know, moves the hair out of her face and always and puts his hand on his cheek, like that continues.
He's always like kissing her forehead and yeah.
And like, and you know, putting his, like he even kissed her on the arm after they like
had sex. Yeah. Speaking of aftercare, just like gentle touches afterwards to ensure emotional stability.
Yes.
What I also liked, another small intimate, like one of these moments is when she wakes up in that tent and she's like, he wasn't here when we went to sleep. He came in here afterwards and just joined us after they've done the joining. And so that's just like where he is now. Yeah. That's his place.
Oh, yes. I would also like to read this quote that I appreciated because I feel like it's what I needed to hear. So she's just kind of thinking about, it's after the joining and she's just kind of like processing. She says, and I didn't know if I should feel conflicted about what we'd shared. Actually, I did. It struck me that there wasn't anything I was supposed to feel. It didn't matter what I would have thought or felt a year ago. All that counted was what I felt now, what we felt. And that was something good, right, peaceful, beautiful. And I just really appreciated that because I think if we're gonna go real deep, and I think that's what we've talked about with Poppy and her journey is very much like this journey as a woman, but a journey as like her sexual journey and what her, you know, with her like really unique situation as maiden. And so always worrying about what she looks like, always worrying about where she is and how she presents herself. And she, you know, she's not allowed to speak. She's, you know, and so the fact that she does get to finally ask questions and, you know, be supported and nurtured by men in her life is exciting. And I think that's what I love about Kieran too, is that because like you've said earlier, because of his wovenness, because of him being woven, this natural ability to not feel weird about anything, about nudity and about like sex, like the wedding sex last season and having just it being very open and no shame. And so he was really important he could not have been a better third, you know, to that threesome because she really needed to feel like it was a natural thing. Yeah. And so that was her saying, you know, cause she had a lot of, processing beforehand. Like, you know, is this going to be weird? Is it like, you know, what will people think? And then she even says like, everyone saw him come into the tent, but I didn't feel weird about it, you know? Yeah. So like, that's like a really important thing for her is to feel that like, to shed that like shame. Yeah. I needed to hear that.
No, for sure. For sure. I feel like this kind of also goes back to what I was talking about earlier with that, like the completion of that arc for her. Because you have those moments when she is like, actually, I don't care what they think, because they also don't think anything bad. She's in this very safe space for those kinds of interactions. But I was just thinking about it too. It's not just those parts. So in this kind of very literal sense of this like completion of her character arc in that part. And it's not to say that I don't think those things won't pop up again, because they were obviously very formative for her, but I think they won't be like the only parts of her anymore. She's created this added more to her personality. She's helped herself see more to herself than the scars and the maidenness and not touching anybody. But there is this kind of very literal, like she's getting everything from her past and she's actively leaving behind the bad parts and taking the good parts with her.
Yeah.
Like she has Tawny come back and now Tawny is with her and Tawny is reshaped to fit into her new life. Yeah. She gets these memories and this message from Victor and she can take that with her.
Yes.
And that helped her. But then she sees the little porcelain dolls and she has that really kind of sad moment where she's like, their skin was perfect and that's what I wanted. Yes. And so I would play with them and I would imagine that I was one of them.
Yes.
But then she leaves it behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. I love that she is actually just taking the good parts of that life with her and just leaving the rest behind.
Yeah. This book was very much of a handing off.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I guess plot wise, it also felt like, okay, so we compare everything to like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It felt like the Fellowship again. We get like back to the beginning of that kind of arc, that plot line, because there's this new evil, which was really the old evil that they didn't know that they were fighting, the True King, dubbed the True King by Colas. But it's still like it's still rang true of like the Return of the King. I mean, it's literally kind of that same story where she's taking what she's destined to be, takes that power and uses it.
Yeah.
Like Aragorn going into the mountains and bringing back the fallen or the betrayers and defeating Sauron's group with these ghosts. And that's kind of what she does when she calls up Seraphina's name.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that, because one of the big issues that I usually have with series that are too long, and this is coming from somebody again who's read a series that is so far, I think it's about to have its 16th book, is when you're just using the same evil characters over and over and over again, it gets really washed out. Mm-hmm. But we get a fresh start now. Yeah. And I think that's another reason why this book felt so like less cliffhangery, but still hopeful for potential to happen. Mm-hmm. Because we're literally just starting at the beginning again.
Yeah. But now we have like these established characters too.
Yes. And not the beginning in a bad way. Like the beginning of like a classic story arc. Now we just get to a refresh.
Yeah.
We get a deep breath. Yeah.
I agree. Like, cause this was definitely, I think you had said like Armentrout's first high fantasy. Mm-hmm. And so there is a lot of world building that needs to happen and exposition, but that was very, 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 very gradual because every book we're like blown away by this new thing, right?
Yes.
We're like, oh my God, she's this. Oh my God, she's a god. Oh my God.
She's a primal.
Yeah.
Everybody's lying to everybody.
All the time. Yeah. So it's kind of exciting to see what like new, and it's interesting too, because we have seen, it kind of happened with Seraphina a little bit in Shadow on the Ember, because she realized, oh, like the gods like don't need whatever it is.
Us.
Yeah. The mortals.
They have their power regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we already have kind of a look into life as a primal. So then when Poppy becomes a primal, it's kind of like, okay, now we've kind of done this. And so now it's like, I feel like we might see a little bit more of a Elysium or whatever. At least when they take Malik back or whatever, Malek. But yeah, I think, it is exciting to kind of, I don't feel like we've seen all of the world, but we've seen a lot of it. And so there's a lot more context, and we really understand the politics from like actual events we've experienced with them. And so then when we go into like the new set of rules or the new layer of worlds, it's going to feel like we're with Poppy and Castile like all of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be kind of exciting.
Yeah. Agreed. I think the only other like question that I would have is that they kind of mentioned potentially having a traitor in their midst because she kind of knows their moves ahead of time. And
yes,
I feel on the one hand, it could just be that Isbeth is much older and she's cocky enough that she was anticipating their moves successfully because they are kind of inexperienced. But if there is an actual traitor in their midst, I'm curious to find out who it is.
Okay. I made a note at some point, not about a traitor, but I just got this idea. Valen has been a very good boy this book.
That's what I was thinking. And you know who was also a very good boy before he wasn't? Alistair.
Yep.
There were a couple of times where I was like, I don't know if we should trust you.
Yeah.
Also, Malik proves to have much better instincts because I can't remember what happened, but there was one time when he was like, you shouldn't do that. And they did it anyway because they were like, fuck you, Malik. And then afterwards it blew up in their faces. It might have just been taking Malik, the god there. And I remember Poppy thinks we should have listened to Malik, the brother.
Right.
And so his instincts generally, I'm going to say, are on point.
Yeah. I do trust him. At first I wasn't sure, but I at the end I finally did.
I trust him as a character, not necessarily that I trust him like with Poppy and Castile, but as like, I don't believe he lies.
Yeah. He's pretty solid. Yeah.
Yeah. And he does not trust Valen yet. They had a very standoffish reunion. So if it's anyone, my money is actually on Valen at the moment.
Yeah. Well,
and not like
how Eliana worked out.
Yes. Not in the same way that Alistair is, where he's kind of just low-key evil all of a sudden. Like more, not just like a grubby power grabber, but like
you can definitely see Valen is really trying to gain their trust back from not telling them what Isbeth was. Yeah. And he, first of all, I underlined it. He calls Poppy Your Highness because he's in front of people, and she notes okay, he did that out of respect. So I was like, okay, he's really like being good boy. And then then when they're all meeting to figure out what to do, before they went and got Malek, is Valen like openly in front of everyone just starts talking and saying like, she didn't tell you about this because out of respect for me, and like he's really trying to take ownership in front of everyone so that he can clear the air for everyone. So no, it really felt like he was trying to use it. Yeah. It really felt like he was trying to like get everyone to like him and trust him. And so, yeah,
I would buy it if he's not the traitor, if he was just suddenly realizing how much he really screwed them all over, him and Eliana screwed them all over by not being honest. But should there be a traitor, he is my first suspect.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Well, it's like it can't be a Wolven, you know?
Yeah. I don't think they're even physically capable of betraying her. Yeah. So it has to be one of the others.
I mean, a really tragic one would be Tawny.
Yeah.
Because I could see that kind of happening because
stuff was revealed before Tawny showed up.
Yeah.
So we knew that the traitor already existed.
That's true. Yeah.
So it would have to be one of the Atlanteans. And I don't know how much the generals knew in terms of like the things that had been slipped or the things that they suspected were like the result of a traitor. But there was that one general also who very clearly didn't agree with her on things. Very easy suspect though. red herring kind of like, wow, look at this guy. He's real suspicious.
The Eilard or whatever.
Eilard, yeah.
Eilard. It's a great name.
That's the way it's spelled.
I know. It's so weird. Yeah.
Oh, I'm also interested to see whose primal magic Wilhelmina used to help entomb Malik.
Yes.
Because they're like, well, Willa helped her, but we don't know whose magic they used. So that'll be exciting. Because I feel like that'll be another bomb.
Yeah.
I think it'd be funny if it was Nyktos.
Yeah.
Like definitely in a ha-ha funny kind of way.
He's also been incredibly cryptic this whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like he could have,
could have been much more honest about what was going on.
Yeah,
yes.
Could have been like, you're primal, like,
well,
you're not the
that's assuming that they know that she's actually a primal. Yeah. They might not have known at the time, but also like you could have said, well, that sounds suspiciously related to Colas.
Yeah.
Like it's that stuff that I'm like, okay. Because at least like Reaver knew, but he's like, I didn't know you guys didn't know.
Yeah, everyone's just been so spacey about it. Very annoying.
He's like, I thought, how did you not know? So it could be assumed that Nyktos believed or like was under the same impression.
Yeah.
But if she comes clearly not understanding this conflict that they're entering, maybe mention that it's because of your uncle who is very stupid.
Yeah.
So that is Nyktos. Man, come on.
Granddaddy Nyktos.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Very, very happy with this. And
Same.
And where we're left and where we may go. I feel like I can wait a year or less. I'm not gonna make it a year, but yes, like I feel like
we also have a light in the flame.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
I'm loving this like combining universes that everyone's doing. I'm very, very game.
It just makes me breathe a little easier when we can get one like twice a year.
Yes. Oh yes.
Okay. So what's happening next week?
Next week is the season finale.
Wow.
We are going, I think we're going to do something new this time, which I haven't started like
me either,
but I've had
I wanted to wait until the book was over.
Yes.
So it's been fiddling around. Yeah.
So what are we doing though?
So one of the new things that we're going to do is, it's going to be kind of a lot of the same stuff that we've done previously,
which is fuck, marry, kill, stuff like that.
Yeah. Would you rathers? I wanted to include this time a little bit where we're going to kind of do like a fan casting of some of these, if they were to ever be live action or turned real.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, for Netflix, Hulu, movies. Should any potential producers listen to this, please heed our advice. So that's going to be the main thing that we're doing
for the books that we've read this season.
Just this season. Yeah. And we're focusing on the two, like the main leads. So female and male.
Sure.
Love interests.
Yeah.
But there's definitely already a couple where I'm like, actually, I think this would fit well.
Yeah. There's definitely like ones you're like, okay, but I just casted this person. So
yeah.
Gonna mention
And I think I've actually done more of those just in my head than I have done actual the two leads.
Yeah. Because
because they feel like it's harder. They have to fit. They have to fit so much. Yeah. So that's I'm excited for that.
Yeah. But other than that, I think thank you for hanging in there with us as we wrap up now at 8:38 Pacific time. And Melissa will be up all night like she always is.
I honestly, it's not that different than when I'm usually editing an episode on Sunday night. So,
but we are going to release this probably tomorrow. I'll probably post about it on Tuesday morning, but it'll be out this week, a little late, but that's okay. Cause life.
It'll be out on Monday still.
Yeah.
I've got some honor left within me at the end of the season.
Yeah. But we want to also thank you for joining us every week. We see you. We do, because we look at the numbers and you guys are out there and it's so exciting.
We appreciate all of you guys.
Yes. Like this is just, I mean, it's not even the last episode of the season or anything, but it's still needed. Like we just love doing this, and it makes, there is something to be said about getting like validation that like, other people like this and I'm doing something and I'm, that like someone
join us in the cringe, you guys.
Join us in the cringe.
Yeah.
And just talking about books and smut. Like, I just love it. It's super fun. And
who doesn't love it? Boring people.
I know. How do you get through life?
Right? I genuinely don't know. All right. So, well, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. And join us next week. Happy reading.
Happy reading.
Bye.
Bye.